This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports.
Good morning. You're listening to the Mac and Jack Sports Show on Northeast Streaming Sports.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Mac and Jack Sports Show, our Friday edition. Off a late last night NFL draft where me, Jack, Keith, we had a lot of guests on that stayed with us for a while. A lot of views, a lot of comments. Thanks for being there with us. And, of course, a lot of people still sleeping this morning, Jack. We're the lucky ones. We're up early. So how you doing, Jack?
Yeah, good. Exciting night last night, like the NFL draft normally is. And a lot of other sports took place, we'll cover later on.
They sure did, and we'll definitely cover them. So 3 quarterbacks taken in the first 4 picks, Jack. Bryce Young, as everybody thought, going to Carolina. C.J. Stroud going to Houston. And, we had our
Anthony Richardson going to Indianapolis.
Thank you.
Mac, there was absolutely no surprise at all that 3 quarterbacks went in the first 4 rounds.
Right.
But the big surprise and the big talk of the NFL draft, perhaps, has been the player that wasn't selected.
Yes.
Wasn't selected at all in the first round. Will Levis, the quarterback from Kentucky. A lot of people had him going as high as number 4 to the Indianapolis Colts. I mean, they had it a toss-up between him and Anthony Richardson. Who were the Colts going to take? The Colts wound up taking Anthony Richardson. Will Levis kept sliding all the way out of the first round. But Mac, my theory is this. Teams, for the most part, have their franchise quarterback. After the initial wave of those 3 quarterbacks were picked, Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud, Anthony Richardson, you look at every team's roster, and for the most part, they don't need a quarterback. For the most part, okay? And that's why Anthony Richardson slid. Even the few teams you might think, Mac, might be quarterback needy, they've already committed to another young quarterback to be their starter, and it's hard to back out. Like the Falcons have committed to Desmond Ridder, second-year starter, that it's his job. So they can't really draft another young quarterback. Washington, Howell, they've committed to him to be their quarterback this year. So it's hard to draft a Will Levis. A team like the Vikings, they have a Kirk Cousins there, even though they might in a way be looking to move on from him. It's not quite yet. They still feel they're ready to make a Super Bowl run. But I think once a blue chip quarterback, a reportedly blue chip quarterback falls to the second or third round, a team can then draft him in a way because it sends a message to their incumbent quarterback. Look, we didn't take him in the first round. We didn't push him. He's available now. He's the best available. So now we're grabbing him. Unlike a situation where you move up and take a quarterback, like what the Packers did with Jordan Love years ago. They moved up in the first round to take a quarterback. That's a bad message to your incumbent. That sends a bad vibe. Had the Packers just taken Jordan Love in the second round outright and not moved up to draft him, Aaron Rodgers' perception at the time of the Packers may have been much different.
I agree with that. And Riddick was on the former GM.
Louis Riddick.
Yeah, he was on. He was talking about why he thinks Levitt dropped so far. And he was saying that he takes way too many hits. He got injured last year. His throwing completion rate is one of the worst in college. So that could be the cause of why Levis dropped so far into the second round. Something that we didn't know about, and I guess at the time the experts didn't know about, because they definitely had him at number 4.
Well, yeah, he's playing for Kentucky too, not exactly an elite college program, and they may have taken that into consideration. Sometimes we got to trust these evaluators. they sometimes miss on a big time quarterback, but when they miss on a big time quarterback, it's normally not a quarterback that's on everyone's focus the way a Will Levis is. It would be someone not rated so highly. There are a batch of quarterbacks who still haven't been taken in this draft that no one's talking about. And I bet at least one of them is going to turn out to be elite. No idea who it's going to be. It could be 8 quarterbacks left. But what are you going to do? Take a guess on one of the 8 that they're going to be elite and waste a high draft pick? You don't do it. So you wait till later on. You maybe get them in the 4th round or something. You take a chance and maybe, you hit gold with that. But with Will Levis, it was just a question of the program he's from. The teams have done their due diligence on him. It's kind of like with Malik Willis last year. We kept looking at Malik Willis like he was going to be taken in the 1st round. He wasn't. He lasted till the 3rd round. And you want to know something? The teams were justified because he hasn't turned out to be that good. And if Tennessee had a chance to do it all over again, they wouldn't have even drafted him in the 3rd round. And maybe Will Levis is this year's Malik Willis. Not that Malik Willis might not eventually turn out to be a decent quarterback, but sometimes it takes time, but you can't with that 1st round pick. I mean, especially the teams that were going high, because there's a history of quarterbacks being taken way too high who haven't worked out.
That's very true. And, I felt really bad for the kid. I mean, he's out there, he's sitting on the couch with his family, miserable. The agent, I don't know what the agent was telling him, but it sure wasn't helping. He tried to put on a happy face, but you just knew he was miserable. And Jack, I'm surprised they didn't go into the back room and just, why stay out there? I mean, you're just out there and people are going to make fun of you. And I
don't think anyone was making fun of him. He tried to put on a happy face and the people around him, but it must have been eating him up. We've seen this type of thing happen before. Brady Quinn was supposed to go with the year with Jamarcus Russell, 1 or 2.
Right.
And it was taking forever to pick him. They eventually took him to the back room over there. Right. And you don't want to be in the back room when you're getting picked. You still think you might get picked. What do you want to do? Duck in the back room and hide? I mean, it says something about your character to be out there and waiting the whole time, but it must have really been eating them up. Listen, imagine they had the same type of draft atmosphere when Dan Marino was drafted. At that time, players would get a call at home. Right. A lot of them. I like to say the story of the 1986 draft. I saw the 1st round from a hotel balcony. I just showed up.
Yeah.
And I could see. That's how informal it was at the time. But Will Levis had, Mac, a less than 1% chance of falling out of the 1st round statistically.
Right.
So you can't blame his agent. Come on, Mac. If your client has a less than 1% chance of falling out of the 1st round, you tell him to chill out, hang out. You're going to get picked. This is the analytics. I mean, are overwhelming in your favor. But the way it worked out, it just didn't happen. Like I said, you look at every team there is committed to a quarterback. Even the teams you think need a quarterback, you'd say the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Oh, they definitely could use Will Levis. And I'm not going to argue that, but they committed to Baker Mayfield and Kyle Trask this year. And you don't take a Will Levis in the 1st round unless you feel he's definitely going to be a starting quarterback. It sends a very bad message to the other 2 that you're not going to move forward with them beyond this year. And the Buccaneers might very well want to move forward with either Baker Mayfield or Kyle Trask. It means they haven't given up on them, per se. Yeah. But Will Levis is obviously, Mac, going to get drafted. It's just a question of where, when, probably today, probably fairly early. And I kind of like to eye the LA Rams because Matthew Stafford his injury history. We don't know how much longer he's going to last. It's an ideal landing spot, for Will Levis. He couldn't get too much a better spot than being with the LA Rams and getting an opportunity there.
Yeah, you're right. Bryce Young, of course, goes number 1 at Carolina, like everybody thought. To me, he's a great athlete, Jack. He's too small to be a quarterback, in my opinion. Too thin. I think he's going to get hurt. But they seem to think that he's the answer there in Carolina, Jack.
I'm going to throw this at you, Mac. He was an elite college quarterback, obviously, to be taken number 1 overall. Don't you think there were big, defensive linemen, big linebackers who are falling on him, tackling him in college? He's not playing football for the first time. He got the hits in college. Okay, a number of guys hitting him were highly drafted here, opposing players.
And he did get hurt.
He did get hurt. Everyone gets hurt now and then. It's a fear, but the rules protect the quarterback in the NFL a lot more so than they did years ago. A lot more so. If this were years ago, it would be more of a concern. I like to tell people, use Joe Namath as an example. Joe Namath had issues with his knee, getting injured at Alabama when he went to school there. So when he entered the NFL, he entered with a really bum knee. So if Joe Namath was coming out of the draft, he may have been this year's Will Levis. Teams wouldn't have wanted to take a chance on him because of the medicals with the knee, with the this and that. And Joe Namath played a lot of years in the NFL.
Yeah.
A lot of years. So I don't think you can be too scared. You have to take a chance. Sometimes a draft pick is going to turn out to be a bust. Like Zach Wilson, probably the way it looks now, isn't going to work out for the Jets to be number 2 overall in the draft. But you take a chance, on a play, and if it works out, it works out. But if you get all timid, and Bryce Young wasn't taken by Carolina, I mean, they could have deferred to CJ Stroud then, of course. Okay, but Bryce Young has the ability to be dynamic.
Yeah, I don't know, Jack. I still think he's too small and too thin for the too light for the NFL. And we'll see what happens. I just saw something this morning on Namath, Jack. I didn't know he was also drafted by the St. Louis Cardinals in the NFL. Yes. I'm surprised he didn't take that. I mean,
there was kind of like, you talk about a form of free agency, because the Jets were in the AFL, the Cardinals were the NFL, the Cardinals were the established team. The Jets overwhelmed them. They gave them a package. It sounds like peanuts today, like something like $427,000. Namath wanted a shiny new car. The Cardinals offered him to do a little public relations work, I think for Anheuser-Busch or something, Yeah. And the offer was solid, that the Cardinals were giving a decent offer by NFL standards, but nothing like a free agent thing. Like I never cease to like to tease about the Aaron Judge situation. The Cardinals gave a fair offer, but one he wasn't going to take compared to what the Jets were going to offer. The Jets kind of blew him away. They had Sonny Werblin. The Jets, a wheeler and a dealer, who was in the entertainment business. He looked at Namath as more than a quarterback. He looked at Namath as a big-time commodity, an entertainer, a star for New York City, who was made for New York. Yeah. And he kind of sold that on Namath. If push came to shove, if the Cardinals wanted Namath bad enough and they really broke the bank, they could have probably gotten Namath because they were a little more established, but the Cardinals were willing. They wanted to stay within the structure, the way the NFL did things. Had they been more like the Cleveland Brown owner Hazlitt, when he went out of the box and gave Deshaun Watson the money, they could have had Namath. How would the face of football have turned out, Mac, had Namath gone to the St. Louis Cardinals, the Jets don't win a Super Bowl in all probability. Maybe the Jets never would have gone to Super Bowl. They've only been to one. And the Cardinals, they probably wouldn't have gone to a Super Bowl. Namath would have been a very good quarterback for them. He wouldn't have turned out to be the star that he was. It's like, wow, sometimes things hinge on a decision a certain way. I mean, you never know. I mean, even you take a quarterback whose name is associated with being a draft bust, and that's a mean term to say, and I don't mean it to be derogatory. I'm just reporting Ryan Leaf. Imagine Ryan Leaf went to an organization that had a powerful structure, a coach with a tough personality who they had to listen to, like a Mike Tomlin, for example. Right. Could he have turned out to be a different quarterback? Could he have developed a little better? I'm thinking with certain other, coaches, with an Andy Reid, for example. Because, you don't mess around with guys like that. You don't go out of the box. They contain you. They have a way maybe of bringing out, the best of your abilities.
Sure. So Houston goes second. Some people thought he'd go defense. I felt really good about C.J. Stroud here. And not only did they get C.J. Stroud, but they trade back up and get a very good linebacker. I think it's
Will Anderson. Yeah, they got Will Anderson. They gave up a lot to get him. But DeMarco Ryan, he's a defensive guy coming over from the 49ers, their defensive coordinator. It's kind of like a new era in Houston. They have a really good young dynamic coach over there. They have their franchise quarterback, Will Anderson, who's going to be an outstanding player. He's going to give their defense a lot of attitude. The Texans suddenly went from being on the outside to being one of the good young teams in the NFL to look forward to. It doesn't mean they're going to win next year, but they laid the blueprint for the future. They really laid the blueprint for the future, and they're going to add pieces, obviously, as they go along. And Houston, I think they're trending in the direction that the Jacksonville Jaguars were. Really bad a year ago. Last year, they actually even won their division, made the playoffs, even though they only had an 8-9 record. But the idea they improved a lot, and I think Houston is on that track. I really do. I mean, they might be just a year away from being a playoff team now.
I think you're right. So Richardson goes to the Colts. I know you're a little worried about this pick, Jack. I think he'll be fine. I think he's going to start right away. Can run like the wind. He's got a big arm. I don't think that he's going to be the best quarterback out there, but I think he's going to be solid, Jack.
I'm going to tell you, they got a guy like I joked with you about Gardner Minshew. You were telling me, he should be in starting quarterback in this, that. No, he's not a franchise quarterback by a long shot, Gardner Minshew. And you don't move forward figuring, we have a quarterback of the future in Gardner Minshew. But he's competent. He can hold the fort down for a while, okay? So, they're not in a desperate position, the Colts. I think Minshew is going to be a very pleasant surprise with how well he might play for the Colts. But with that said, the Colts, when are they going to get to draft that high again? Number 4 overall. They're too good a team, I think, next year to have a number 4 selection. So once you're that high in the draft, and if there's someone you like, you take them. You don't look, we got Gardner Minshew. We don't need a quarterback. That would be a silly attitude to take, even though I think Minshew can play well next year. But Anthony Richardson, that is a gamble with a number 4 overall pick with all the other players on the board. It really is a gamble. And, I said with Anthony Richardson, something a little controversial yesterday, and I kind of want to clarify it. I said, the guy is so incredibly athletic they could have him play wide receiver. Now, I'm aware a lot of years ago there was first-class discrimination, first-class racism against black quarterbacks. Completely disgusting. They wouldn't get a chance to be quarterbacks in the NFL. They would be made wide receivers. It was flat-out racism, disgusting, okay? But Anthony Richardson, what are people going to say if the Colts eventually turn him into a wide receiver? I don't want to hear, racism. They don't want a black quarterback. Anthony Richardson, I don't think is that good. And, you want to get some value out of him. Whatever positions he can play, eventually you play him. They drafted him as a quarterback. They're going to go all out to develop him as a quarterback. Okay? Don't get me wrong. But what happens if they have hypothetically another Zach Wilson on their hands? Imagine if Zach Wilson could be an elite wide receiver. He had that talent. The Jets would move him around a little bit.
Jack, I think that when you draft somebody that high as your quarterback, he's going to be your quarterback. You're not going to move him around. He'll demand to be traded.
Not in the beginning. No, ultimately.
Even ultimately, that would be like moving Lamar Jackson to running back, Jack. That's not going to happen. You're not going to be picked that high and end up not being a quarterback. And I don't care how long down the road you go, he will demand to be traded. And they will.
Who would want him? Who the heck would want Anthony Richardson at that point? He's going to demand to be traded. No one's going to play a quarterback late on if he's a bust with the Colts.
A lot of teams would want Anthony Richardson. He's still going to
have to play quarterback. No way. Once they see he can't play with the Colts,
sure they would.
No one would want him to be quarterback.
There's no doubt. Just that's like saying that nobody would want Lamar Jackson to be their quarterback.
Lamar Jackson's a different class. Are you out of your mind to compare to Lamar Jackson?
I think he's a young Lamar Jackson, Jack.
Then he'll quarterback the Colts if he's that good. He's going to be the Colts franchise quarterback.
In fact, they're not gonna sit him behind Minshew. He's playing right away. They drafted him to play next year.
No, he won't. No, he won't. He's definitely carrying. He's your clipboard candidate for more than 1 year.
I don't think so, Jack. I don't think he's drafted that high and is be on the sidelines. I don't think so. I don't think they would do that. That would make them look terrible. And
for 1 year they can get away with it.
I don't think
Obviously, they drafted him number 4 overall. They want him in there playing.
Yes, this year.
As they can feel he's ready.
This year he's playing.
I will say this.
It's like what happened with Zach Wilson. He shouldn't have been playing right away, but they played him. He's drafted too high not to play, Jack. Right away, he's going in. So we'll find out. We'll find out how good he is.
Well, it depends on the situation. With Carolina, you would assume that Bryce Young, the number 1 overall pick in the draft, is playing right away.
Yes.
But I get the feeling the head coach, Frank Reich, is going to want to baby him to an extent. No, because they have Andy Dalton there. So in the very beginning, I think Bryce Young takes over as quarterback at some point during the regular season, like Eli Manning did with the Giants. They had Kurt Warner. And after 9 games, they pulled Kurt Warner for Eli Manning, even though Kurt Warner was actually playing well.
Yes.
He was playing well. They pulled him for Eli Manning after 9 games. I think the same thing with Carolina. Andy Dalton starts the year. If they're winning and they're playing okay, they kind of hold Bryce Young off and they wait for the right time. My guess is Bryce Young starts about fifth, sixth game of the season, anywhere from 5th to 8th game. And they go to Andy Dalton in the meantime.
Good morning. Good morning.
Hey, Byron.
Byron Young was on the draft show with us, of course, former New York Giants wide receiver. Byron, you just came in when we were talking about Eli Manning and what happened with Kurt Warner. Jack's trying to, compare that to Bryce Young. I don't think there's a comparison there. I think that Bryce Young, you drafted him number 1. You're going to play him right away. Opening game, he starts, and and you have Andy Dalton as backup in case he gets hurt. That's why they did that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he's a proven guy. Last 2 years he played real well at Alabama, and and I think you just made a statement. You're gonna build your offense around Bryce Young, and he's a very intelligent young man, and so I think that's what they decided. Everybody was on the same page. They all agreed. So, and Carolina, they looking forward to seeing what can happen. That's for sure.
Yeah. Well, Bryce Young's the guy without question. Mm-hmm. But I'm saying, is it going to be the first game of the season? Is it going to be 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th game? When is it going to happen? My feeling is Andy Dalton will start the season. And the attitude with Carolina, it's fine. Bryce Young is our quarterback of the future. We all know that. But it doesn't hurt him to maybe get his feet wet a little, and we'll put him in at the right time during the season. Eli Manning was drafted just as high, basically, as Bryce Young. And they waited to the 9th game. They got a little edgy. It depends on situations. With the Houston Texans, C.J. Stroud's going to start immediately because they have no one else there. With Indianapolis, Gardner Minshew's probably starting the season, and they'll take their time with Anthony Richardson. Anthony Richardson might be on that bench a whole year. I don't know how. Listen, it depends how they look in training camp.
I think, really, Jack, I think football is a different time, a different era. I mean, probably 5 or 6 years ago, they would probably do that. But now they put these guys in a little bit earlier. And I just think, just think of Aaron Rodgers and that had Brett Favre and those type of situations, that was a different situation. But now these teams don't have those quarterbacks in place like a Brett Favre. And so I'm thinking that these teams need to win immediately. And I think they're making a statement. And that's why I think they try to evaluate these players as best as they can, because they put a lot more pressure on players to come in and immediately be an impact.
Yeah.
I agree with what you're saying, Byron, but it depends who else they have there in part. Like right. I was saying, C.J. Stroud's probably starting immediately for Houston. They have no one else. It would nearly be insulting to sit him behind anyone else. They have Mills Davis. Give me a break. They're not going to sit him behind him. That's stupidity. I mean, that's what happened with Urban Meyer when he was coach at Jacksonville. They drafted Trevor Lawrence number 1 overall. Had he said Trevor Lawrence is going to learn a little bit watching in the beginning and he's our guy of the future, that would have been great. But Urban Meyer was a complete idiot by saying Trevor Lawrence is competing for the starting job. What is he going to then say? Trevor Lawrence lost out in the competition? I mean, they're a complete fool. That's why he's no longer coach at Jacksonville. He got fired during the year in part. But Gardner Minshew's competent. He's been around. He can hold. He's not a franchise quarterback, but Indianapolis is a contender. Despite picking so high, they could win with Gardner Minshew in the beginning. And if Anthony Richardson, it's going to take time. It's going to take some time. If you start him immediately, he better produce immediately. They're not going to be that many growing pains. Some quarterbacks, you could have growing pains, like Trevor Lawrence. Let him take his lumps. We understand he's going to develop. Situations are completely different. And Anthony Richardson doesn't have the college pedigree.
And I agree with all that, though. But I think too, they gonna test him, and they gonna see what kind of pressure that he can withstand, in practice and scrimmages and things like that. So I think he's going to be well tested before they make that decision. But you're probably right. I just think too that I hope they don't rush him and then try to put him in there before he's really ready, because you got to be a mature-minded player to be able to withstand and cover everything that goes into being a quarterback in the National Football League. Pocket presence and knowing the blocking schemes. I mean, knowing the defenses and things like that. We talked about that, and it usually takes quarterbacks 3 to 4 years to get that down to a science. And Daniel Jones is a good example of that. You can name a lot of quarterbacks And just think about that. You can name a lot of quarterbacks, and they weren't quite ready. And you're absolutely right. And this guy's young, and he'll make a lot of mistakes, but you definitely don't know until you get in there. The NFL, it's a whole different animal. These guys not quite ready. And you see it every year that they put these quarterbacks in too early.
And I have a theory too, fellas. It's not just about experience. You could have all the experience in the world. A large part is instincts.
Mm-hmm.
Just an instinct, split second, whether to release the ball, who to throw it to. It's such a small window, but it makes all the difference. I mean, if I had the skills to be an NFL quarterback, I probably wouldn't be a good NFL quarterback because my instincts would be a split second too slow.
Yeah. And then that's what, just think about Tom Brady, how he released that ball within less than 3 seconds a lot of times. A lot of these quarterbacks ain't going to have that kind of capability to know how to do that because he knew how to place that ball. He knew, the timing of it. He knew the rush factor. I mean, it's a lot of things that happens on that football field.
And you get blitzed, and you have to release it quick to someone. Some quarterbacks just panic.
A lot of times with receivers, the ball be in the air before you even turn around. And that's because the quarterback kind of got the feel and when he's gonna get pressure, when he's gonna get hit, the aim and it's a lot of things that goes into it because everything happens so fast. I mean, I tell people all the time, if you really want to be in an awe moment, go out there and just stand on the sideline of an NFL game. You'll be in awe because how fast things happen. And that's why, you have to give credit to a lot of the referees, and they don't talk about that. But you have to give credit to a lot of referees because they have to be on point. I mean, they make decisions, and these guys the referees are really good to be out there on the football field to referees those NFL games as well.
Yeah, a lot of complaining, but it's very tough.
It is.
I don't think instincts is the right word. I know what Jack's saying. I think that comes with all the practice they put in together, where they know where the receiver is going to be without even looking. I had that with a couple of my receivers. I just knew that where they were going to be at, even when I couldn't see them. Right. So I think a lot of that has to do with the reps they got, time after time after time, and they know each other so well from the off season. I think that's why it looks a lot harder than maybe it is. That this is something they do regularly, and we just I don't believe he just made that throw. And and you got to give the receivers credit too. I mean, they go up, they get the ball, they stop and grab the ball behind them. I mean, they've been making plays. They've been making Lynn Swann plays like this for years now. So I think it's the repetition. I think it's the relationship. I think it's they know what each other is doing. The reads. I mean, it is not easy. But
there's a difference, guys, between Will Levis, Anthony Richardson. Maybe why the Colts went with Anthony Richardson there, because Anthony Richardson might be able to outrun a lot of his mistakes. What's he going to do best? Yeah. He's going to take off and run. Will Levis is going to be in the pocket, take the hits, a lot more. And that's what we're talking about. The NFL is changed. Quarterbacks are running, all the time. Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud are mobile. Even though C.J. Stroud's more of a pocket passer, he's still mobile at the end. And you don't want the old-fashioned NFL quarterback who stays in the pocket to take his hit. That doesn't happen as much. It's a running league. Your best running backs in the NFL are quarterbacks. That's why the running back position has gotten devalued, because they have quarterbacks who are going to do the work. People ask me, who's the best running back in the NFL? I say Lamar Jackson. That's your best running back, for real. He's the best running back in the NFL. He's disguised as a quarterback.
And they just paid him yesterday.
Yes, they did.
Right. He's like the Ohtani of baseball. He plays two positions.
Yeah.
Quarterback and running back at the same time.
Well, maybe that's what they were thinking about Anthony Richards too. They thinking that they want that type of player. Perhaps, and unfortunately, Will Levis, I mean, he's a spectacular quarterback, so he's gonna be good. Whoever get him gonna get a steal. So he's definitely the best player available today, right now.
Well, Byron, when you were drafted, of course, it's nothing like it is today. TV coverage, it's a party. They're there all day, all
Right.
night. How did you feel? Me and Jack discussed this. How did you feel about Levitt being there? He looked miserable. He's, the camera's on him constantly. His family's not happy because he's miserable. You kind of feel for the guy, right?
Oh yeah, no doubt. I really feel for him. But it's something that you can't control. But once you get your name called, you got something to prove. Once you know what team selected you, now that you all in. And I think that's the approach, that's the mindset that you got to have. And he's gonna be all right. He just got to continue to stay positive. I know there's a lot of things that happen that out of your control, and that's one thing about the NFL draft, is so unpredictable.
Yeah. And with that, we'll push on to the experts. The experts are wrong so many times now. They really don't know what the team's doing. They hear rumors. They don't know what the scouts are really looking at. Again, they just listen to the rumors that the teams are putting out there, and they get a lot of things wrong. Levitz is one thing. Richardson, a lot of people thought he might drop into the second round, and he didn't. He was taken fourth overall. So, I think that you've got to have a program, right? You got to talk about things like this. But what do you think? You think that maybe the rumors the teams are putting out there, the scouting is totally different what the rumors are, Byron?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of all of that, and just going to the combine. I know Jack don't like the combine, and I like the combine because you find out a lot about the players. And I think too, your scouting department, they take notes. They have people watching you and things like that. They go back to your high school and junior high school to talk about to your coaches, and so there's a lot of things that goes into it. They know everything about you. They know how many kids and know about your father, if he went to jail and all that type of stuff. So that's a lot of factors. And then that S2 test, they take the test, the intelligence test, just to see how smart you can pick up, how quickly you can process things. So it's some things that the combine offer and the scouting department, take notes of. And then they go back and they talk to the general managers. And then that's why you saw the Detroit team, the staff, they were so excited about the players that they got, and it was a shock that
everyone was acting excited, Byron, yesterday. Come on, every room was acting.
Yeah, every room was excited because you got to make the fans buy into your pick.
Yeah, I guess you do. And you left out one important part of the combine is the interviews, Byron, with the quarterbacks. Here you get to not just watch the tape, you get to meet the guy, you get to ask him questions. You even have him drop what he's going to do when he sees this type of defense, so you can evaluate him better than just on tape. So, there's a lot of different things that happen in the combine that a lot of people don't know about, and Jack hates. And that's because he's never been to the combine. So maybe
we need to take Jack to the gate. Jack, next year, let's plan on meeting at the combine. We go to Indianapolis. Let's meet at the combine, and let's kind of just go and just take everything in, get that NFL combine experience.
The combines change teams' minds for the worst normally. Okay, Anthony Richardson never would have went number 4 overall if it wasn't for the combines. He wouldn't have even been in the first round. But he went to the combines. He showed his athletic skill. Same way with the Jets with Zach Wilson. Now, Zach Wilson might turn out to be a good quarterback ultimately. I'm rooting for that.
Yeah.
But they saw what he could do at the combines. Oh, he's the only quarterback that could throw across his body while he's on a run and release a hard throw that's accurate across his body. You know what the combines is? I compare it to my specialty, the sport of boxing. Okay. You take all the fighters, let them hit the speed bag, let them hit the heavy bag, say, oh, wow, he could throw those combinations off the heavy bag. Then he's in the ring, for real. In a real fight, it's a totally different thing. Like, everyone's going to look good, like they could jump rope extra beats per minute, and stuff. And we're dazzled with how good they look in the gym workout. I mean, that's what it basically is.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And it kind of remind me back in the day when Nehemiah, Ronaldo Nehemiah, the runner,
great athlete, the
hurdler, the track guy, they tried to put him on the football field, could run, but it's a whole different thing, running and catching and then getting hit and all that, just making sure you can process and experience the whole thing. And it's so many different factors that goes into it. So you're absolutely right.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Did Bob Hayes have a big football background before he came to the Cowboys?
He didn't have a big football background. I got a chance to meet him and spend some time with him, but he was he didn't have a whole lot of football background. I mean, the Cowboys was just excited because he could stretch that field and he brought a lot more to the game.
He turned out to be a great receiver. They're talking about Usain Bolt maybe being drafted at one point, because the speed was so incredible that they figured he's going to get open at the very least on a fly pattern. But once you're on the field, there's football speed and there's regular track speed. It's a different thing.
Completely. Yeah, absolutely. They still talk about Jerry Rice. He wasn't fast, but he had the football speed, the crisp routes. I mean, he turned that slant pass into a touchdown every time. So you see a different case scenario on running those routes and playing football speed. Exactly. Yes.
I never heard about Usain Bolt or whatever his first name is.
Usain
Bolt was they were talking about drafting him. That would have been a good draft.
Well, there was talk with the Cowboys with Carl Lewis, and he's winning the Olympic gold medals to draft him and he'd be at camp. I mean, they would have guaranteed him a spot on the team if he would have signed
Bolt was a Bolt.
The speed was so amazing. If they have a high school background, hypothetically, if it's a high school player who was a very good receiver in high school, you have something to work with, you know, because he has some football knowledge, probably has good hands, and you work hard with them. Maybe it could work out, but if there's no football background to begin with, don't waste your time.
So Ron Brown, I think he played for the Rams. He was a track guy, and he turned out to be a pretty good receiver for the Rams back in the day.
But Bolt was a big man. That you could have played.
Yeah, he's a big guy.
Yeah. I mean, he was big.
The only thing is, can he take that hit? Can he go across that field?
Psychologically, too. Even if physically they can take the hit, psychologically, how are they going to feel about getting hit? If it doesn't bother them much, then, that's a big plus.
Yeah.
Whatever. Speaking of wide receivers, I mean, they started going late in the first round, but some next to running backs, wide receivers are turning into the least appealing draft pick in general. Because the attitude is we can get a wide receiver late on in the draft, like we can get a running back. I think the most emphasis now we see on these drafts, obviously, are put on quarterbacks if you need one.
Yeah.
And, on an offensive lineman, defensive lineman. I mean, it's just somehow running backs and receivers have been casualties of the draft in general.
Because you can get them for a dime a dozen, but, it's been proven that, the receivers, you got to have 6 or 7 of them, put 2 or 3 of them on the practice roster because they're interchangeable. I mean, just think when we played, we had 5 receivers that played a lot for the Giants, and we was interchangeable because that concept still goes. And then you talk about injuries. I mean, they tend to get hurt. I mean, pull muscles, shoulder injuries and hand injuries and things like that. So you definitely need to have a good 6 or 7 guys that can consistently, just look at the rosters these years. I mean, you got 2 or 3, your third and second, fourth string receiver came in and played, came in and had a spark during this last season. And then the way football have changed, you talked about trying to run 75 to 80 plays. That's a whole lot. That's a whole lot of plays, and you're gonna get a lot of contact, a lot of injuries. So that's where the game is.
The cornerback has become a huge position to pick up to cover these fast guys, to come up and tackle the running backs. So, I mean, as you saw last night, the Giants, they pick up the Deonte Banks, cornerback from Maryland, with their first round. I wasn't too happy about it last night, but to think about it today, Byron, I think they picked the best player available, and they definitely need help at cornerback.
Well, I'm going to tell you this why. I mean, they moved up to pick him, and they gave up a 5th round and the 7th round to move up just. But I'm looking right before the Giants took Deonte Banks, cornerback. 4 wide receivers were taken in a row, the first 4 in the draft. I mean, Ja'Con Smith Najeba, I pronounce his name wrong, from Ohio State, was taken by the Seahawks. Then Quentin Johnson, wide receiver from Texas Christian, was taken by the Chargers.
Right.
And the Ravens then took Zay Flowers, who the Giants were linked to. Speaking of Lamar Jackson, then also Jordan Addison was linked to the Giants. He won 1 pick before to the Vikings.
Right.
I get the feeling if a couple of those were available, that's what the Giants would have done.
Yeah.
But what's interesting too? I mean, I can assume that. We could assume that. But if the Giants wanted one of those receivers, don't you think they maybe would have tried to move up with the other team? To get one.
I think they should have tried.
Maybe the price was a little higher. I don't know. Because by the time the Vikings getting Jordan Addison a spot before the Giants, I mean, that's a big pickup for Kirk Cousins because he's going to be a good one.
Oh, yeah, he's going to be a good one. And, he's going to be right there with Justin Jefferson, too. But, they lost, what's his name, Thielen, to the Panthers. Yeah. And so they had to get another receiver to come in and fill that void. So, yeah, I mean, you can see some teams did some spectacular, moves and chest, movement. And I think that's really good. It says a lot. And but those receivers, this first time 4 receivers went 4 in a row right behind each other. And they
number 20, Byron. That's what I'm trying to say. In years past, the receivers were like an appealing position. You figured instead of the first one going 20, at least would go in the top 10 somewhere.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. You usually see receivers going in the top 15. It'd be 1 or 2 receivers usually be gone by now.
So Byron,
yeah, I mean,
Byron, the question is before Jack, hijacked the conversation. What do you think about DeAndre
Hopkins?
Yeah. What do you think about that pick?
The Banks I think he was right. He was supposed to go in the top 15. I think they got a
Who are we talking about here?
The defensive back that the Giants selected.
Oh, okay.
DeAndre Banks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he was, I think he was rated pretty high to go. So I think they're getting a good cornerback. He gonna be a guy that's kind of gonna come in and immediately make an impact. And the Giants had to make a move as a defensive back, but it's a lot of receivers out there. I think they'll get a good receiver today.
Yeah,
actually, that may have been a pretty good move for the Giants because their pass rush. I mean, I don't know how optimistic they are about it this year. Mm-hmm. They shore up the cornerback position over there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think receivers. I think they probably got their eyes on a couple of good receivers. They come in and make immediate. I think too. I would have tried to get DeAndre Hopkins, in a trade or something, but that didn't happen. But it's just one of those things to where you get a lot of receivers.
He costs too much, Byron. Costs way too much.
Yeah, that's true. He's a big price.
Not what you could get him for. I mean, just what you have to pay him and fitting him in with the cap. And Arizona reportedly is now going to hold on to him, and Arizona's like an odd situation, over there. They're not expected to really win. Not next year. They're trying to build something long term. So, I don't like that. That franchise to me is a bit dysfunctional.
Yeah, and nothing with that too. Trying to build, they can process find a coach real quickly. I mean, that's one thing about it. The last these last couple of 5-6 years, the NFL, they'll fire a coach just as quick as they will get rid of some of these players.
Yes,
I'll tell you what they did. They got Paris Johnson.
Yeah.
They traded down, went 6th from Ohio State.
Right.
They traded a couple of times up and down.
Yeah.
Paris Johnson will be good for Kyler Murray. I mean, Murray is another running quarterback who regressed, who went backwards, and they gave him the big money. I mean, if you talk about any quarterback in the NFL who's on trial next year, I maybe that's the wrong term to use, but it's go time for this guy, quarterback. They absolutely have to turn it around. I mean, Kyler Murray and Dak Prescott are the two guys that stand out because Murray regressed a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Dak Prescott had a really bad playoff game, when they got eliminated, left a bad taste in his mouth. Ironically, had a very good game against Tampa Bay the game before. Yeah. But his performance during the season was far from what you'd want it to be.
Yeah, if he had to play the 49ers, I don't know if he want to play the 49ers.
But his performance overall, it slipped last year. I thought Dak Prescott, he just wasn't good.
Yeah,
let's be honest about it. Just wasn't good. And whatever the reason, he has to have a bounce back. Yeah.
Well, one of the things we're gonna know for sure that they don't have the offensive coordinator no more. And then to me, their offense is so predictable. I mean, I could just sit here and just say, okay, I know what the Cowboys getting ready to do. And so I just think now if Mike McCaffrey can do something different for the offense, for his calling their plays, it'll be more exciting to watch. Huh?
They got him Brandon Cooks as a wide receiver from Houston.
Yeah.
Ronald Jones running back. I mean, they did get him a couple of pieces over there, and we'll see. I mean, Cowboys have a pretty good team. I mean, Eagles are going to enter the season as the favorite, but the Cowboys, the feeling is that they're going to contend, at least. And but
the Cowboys just been so predictable in my opinion. I just think if you can't be predictable, if you can just surprise here and there and include your tight end and do some things, to me, you got to move your receivers around, try to create mismatches, and if you're talking about trying to get the ball to CeeDee Lamb, then you need to move him around. You can't let him just sit one position.
Mike McCarthy, the head coach, is going to be allowed to run the offense, basically call the plays. Before Jerry Jones, Stephen Jones, they had a way of doing things, and they agreed with Mike McCarthy. Okay, you feel you can do better. We're letting you be in charge. And it's go time for Mike McCarthy, because if the offense struggles, it's all on him. No excuses.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Now, one of the things I was sitting there thinking, I hadn't heard too much from Denver. Have you guys heard anything from the Denver Broncos?
Well, in the Russell Wilson deal, they gave up the pick. They paid different picks, and there's a carryover, and it's
same.
I think Sean Payton gonna have them guys ready over there.
Same. Well, it's the same with Miami. They didn't have no draft picks either because of the the Tua deal.
The trades.
So they're gonna they're set. They got to go with what they got now, Byron. So let's get to a couple more things about the Giants. Saquon Barkley, of course, the news hasn't changed. Byron, it don't look good. I don't think Saquon's with the Giants next year. I really don't.
You don't think? You think he'll just play out his
you think he's going to be there this season, Mac? So
I don't think he'll play.
Mac isn't. You know what? You want to know something, Byron? Mac likes to come off as being old school. He's not old school at all. Mac the more I think of it, he caves in. He's saying like stuff like this. Well, if Anthony Richardson is going to demand the trade, Saquon Barkley is going to demand the trade. Players demand trades to Mac, and Mac was a GM. He would buckle. He would give in. He would just trade them. Even though the guys are on the contract, they come into his office, they demand the trade. Wouldn't you have loved Byron to play for a coach like Mac? You demand playing time, and
why would you keep somebody around that doesn't want to be there? I don't understand that.
But you're always going to have a few guys who don't want to be there. Tough.
Then get out. Then get out. Bye. See you later.
I think Saquon is going to be there. I really do.
Okay,
I
I
just
hope
think
you're right. I hope
I
you're
said
right.
the same thing by Lamar Jackson. I said the same. I just think these guys, it's a certain time factor that they have to wait and see, and they got to trust the process. I just think with what he's bringing to the table and what he have done for the Giants, I think they're gonna make a deal for him.
I hope you're right. I mean, they're trying out Syracuse running back Sean Tucker. They're bringing in other running backs and trying them out. I don't know, Byron.
Those guys ain't gonna work. I don't care what they do. Saquon Barkley is a class by itself. First of all,
Listen,
wait
you're
a
right.
second, with Mac. You can get rid of Saquon Barkley. You can get a guy just as good as him in the 6th to 7th round. It's not just quarterbacks like Tom Brady who you could get in the 6th and the 7th round. Look at Victor Cruz. You can wait. Wait till the 7th round. You get the top guys.
Undrafted Victor.
But man, you got to keep this in mind. You got to be a special player to play in New York. I'm just telling you. With the Giants, you got to be a special player. You just can't bring anybody in up there and expect them to go off and have a good year.
Byron, you got the inside information. I hope up there. So I'm gonna stick with you. But don't be surprised if Saquon, if not this year, next year is gone. So it'll be.
I think they're gonna make something happen. You know that they've been talking. They're gonna massage this. They're gonna let the OTAs happen. But in July, I look for some big news to happen.
Okay, all right, I'm with you. So, folks, we're close to the top of the hour. We're gonna do our promotion thing for you here. Byron, you gonna stick around through the break?
Yeah, I'm gonna stick around a couple more minutes because I got it's a big weekend for me. I got a couple of events, and I'm helping doing curing cancer for kids tomorrow, and then I'm doing a big event on Sunday with a car show. So I'm getting ready to do some boxing.
All right. So if you're there after the break, great. If you're not, we'll take it easy, Byron. All right.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, there you go.
He was a giant, and he was a cowboy. Now these two former rivals have joined forces to bring you the most insightful, perceptive, and controversial sports talk podcast in America. Former Dallas Cowboys defensive end Jim Jeffcoat locks horns with former New York Giants wide receiver Byron Williams. And now, here's Byron Williams and Jim Jeffcoat. If you like the sweet science, get ready to talk boxing on the Gloved Fist podcast with top boxing writers Frank Latirzo and Jack Hirsch. Frank, a former amateur boxer out of Philadelphia, writes for NY Fights and can be seen on the Boxing Channel. Jack, an amateur boxer who competed in the New York Golden Gloves, was a 6-term president of the Boxing Writers Association. And now, here's Frank Latirzo and Jack Hirsch. It just might be the greatest sports franchise in the history of sports. A place where legends are made, and there's always something to talk about. Get ready to immerse yourself in pinstripes. Start spreading the news, hosted by Paul Semendinger and E.J. Fagan, a couple of doctors with a prescription for Yankee fever. And now, here's Dr. Paul Semendinger and Dr. E.J. Fagan. Get ready to start spreading the news.
See right now, without LeBron, Lakers are struggling.
Let me tell you about a team I hate, all right? I know the Dallas Cowboy fan is here, so I had to make sure he knew how much I hate this team.
I'm ready.
I've often said that the people who run baseball, they try very hard to ruin it.
I'm from Brooklyn. I don't have a problem saying it to his face. Oh, I'm from Brooklyn. Hey, get any...
This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the Mac and Jack Sports Show, our Friday edition. I'm your host, Mac, your co-host, Jack Hirsch, Hall of Fame boxing writer, and the former New York Giants wide receiver, Byron Williams, all here. Just going over the draft, a little bit of Giants news. And Keith won't be in today, so we're going to do a little Patriots stuff, Knicks and the Yankees, of course. So Byron's here. He'll be Keith for this segment. And let's talk about the draft. The Pats actually stay in the first round. They don't fall back as they always do and trade down. You have Christian Gonzalez, cornerback. They took in the first round. Again, another cornerback, just like the Giants. And I guess the Patriots are pretty high on him. So what do you think, Byron? What do you think of that pickup, having cornerback Christian Gonzalez as your first round pick?
Yeah, Witherspoon and Christian Gonzalez was the two best cornerbacks in this year's draft, and I thought Christian Gonzalez would have been picked earlier. So I think the New England Patriots got a great defensive back. This kid grew up here in Dallas, went to Oregon, University of Oregon, and great cover guy. I think he's going to be an impact player. Real smart kid, makes some good plays on the field. He was right in the top 3 defensive backs in this year draft. So I'm thinking that New England got a real good player.
Okay, all right.
I wonder the wisdom of that deal, because Broderick Jones was available where they were going at 14, an offensive lineman, giving Mac Jones that extra protection that he badly needs. Right. Yet they traded with Mike Tomlin, with Pittsburgh, to move down 3 slots. I can understand they get a little more draft capital. Christian Gonzalez is a good value pick, because he was projected to go higher. But, I would have gone with Broderick Jones. I would have shored up the offensive line, really good offensive lineman there. I think that was more of a need for New England. And I know you picked the best player available, but I don't think there was much of a disparity between Christian Gonzalez and Broderick Jones.
But I think too, you got to get a good cornerback. Sauce Gardner proved that last year, and even the Seattle Seahawks had some good cornerbacks and stuff that came in last year that really made an impact to their defense. So but you never can pass up a good offensive lineman as well. You're absolutely right. You got to protect those quarterbacks.
Well, if he was that good, Christian Gonzalez, and I'm a bit skeptical coming from Oregon, he was there for the Jets to take instead of Will McDonald. And imagine you put him on the other side of Sauce Gardner.
Yeah.
Okay, what it's going to mean for your secondary. So, scouting departments sometimes see things a little bit differently in evaluations. But moves like this have a long-term effect. Middle of the first round, where each team could have had another player that were closely, marked off on their board. And it's going to be a big difference maker, I think, ultimately with the Jets. Because if Will McDonald turns out to be so-so, they're going to think back. They could have gotten Christian Gonzalez instead in New England if he turns out to be outstanding for New England. But you're right. They just have Sauce Gardner, so they feel, their overall secondary is, good. So they went, kind of with an edge rusher, outside linebacker, Will McDonald.
Yeah. And, it's still a lot of free agent players out there on the market that some of these teams are thinking about trying to sign as well. So,
no doubt. So the Knicks are playing Miami. The Knicks totally dismantled the Cavaliers in 4 games, or 5 games. Listen, Miami is a good team. The Knicks have a really good defense. They're deeper than they were in a long time. Barrett's playing well. So is, of course, Brunson. Randall's a little hurt. Toppin's playing well. Quickly's playing well. The Knicks bench has really stepped up this series, and their defense is one of the best now left in the series. Byron, so what do you think? Do you think the Knicks will take it to Miami this series?
I think so. I just think, it's kind of like the turning on the switch at the right time. I think that's what they're doing. I think they playing, and the Miami Heat's only got one good player that's really just stepped up, and of course I think the Knicks play good team ball. I mean, for the excitement and things that they bring, I think they got some momentum going into the next round. I think that's what they needed. And I think Brunson and those guys been playing good, solid basketball.
Yeah. Jack, who would you say is the most important Nick in this series?
Oh, Jalen Brunson, he's turned the whole culture around. I know people talk about Julius Randle, but Julius Randle has been with the Knicks for a while. And, they could never take the extra step like this. You could argue, well, had Brunson been with the Knicks all along without Julius Randle, it wouldn't have been. But there's a certain energy that this Knicks team has. I don't understand the seeding. I'm missing something here, why the Knicks are playing Miami. Because the 4 teams left in the East, the team with the best record are the Celtics. The team with the second best record are the Sixers. The team with the third best record is the Knicks, and the team with the fourth best record are the Miami Heat. So I don't understand why 3 is playing 4. The Knicks are playing the Heat, and 1 is playing 2. The Celtics are playing the Sixers. Shouldn't 1 be playing 4? I mean, why are they setting up the brackets this way? They're actually making it better for the Knicks and the Heat, the 3rd and 4th seed.
I think it's because the Bucks got upset. I think the Bucks, weren't they the 3rd-rated team or 2nd-rated team?
But once the Bucks got eliminated, the team with the next best record in the East is the Celtics.
Right.
And the team after them with the next best record are the Sixers.
Right.
That's what I'm trying to say. So why are the Celtics playing the Sixers? Hypothetically, the Celtics should be playing the Heat, and the Knicks should be playing the Sixers. I just don't get.
So maybe being in stone, maybe you're saying they should reset it after.
I don't understand why they're doing it that way. I mean, I don't get it at all. It goes back. We're talking about football most of the show. It just goes back ages ago. When you had that unbeaten Miami Dolphin team, they're playing in the AFC Championship game at Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Why were they playing at Pittsburgh? They're unbeaten. Where's the reward of being unbeaten in the playoffs? It just shows you how dumb things are. You look at reflection.
Right.
But it's good to point out the dumbness at the time it happens.
Sure.
Now wait, years later and say, oh, I don't see how they could have done that. I mean, and I don't see with this NBA matchup here. It doesn't make sense. You're rewarding the Heat and the Knicks by having them avoid the Celtics.
I was gonna say the Bucks was number 1. They was 58-24, and then the Celtics, and then the 76ers, Cavs, the Knicks,
right,
and the Heat. Heat was
who's left?
Yeah,
who's left?
The Knicks were supposed to play. The Knicks were supposed to play the Bucks 1 and 4, but Miami beat the Bucks, and that's what screwed everything up.
Yeah.
But with what's left, that's what the new
Right.
seeding
That's
what I don't. I don't.
They probably should reset after every series.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So the Celtics should be playing the Knicks, and then the 76ers should be playing the Heat.
No. What should be actually the Celtics now have the best record of the 4 teams in the East.
Right.
And the Heat has the worst record. So the Heat should be playing the Celtics, and the Knicks should be, who are number 3, should be playing number 2, the 76ers.
Right.
That's what the records are in order. Yeah. It's the best records.
You need to be the commissioner.
Yes. Well,
unless I'm missing something, the Sixers didn't catch the Celtics at the end for a record on the seeding. Unless I'm missing something here.
Look, if you look at Jack carefully, he does look like an older Silver. He does.
Good point, Matt. Good point.
I would make tougher moves than Adam Silver. I mean, I would hand down suspensions and this and that. And
you would be right on the.
What about being on the bottom of the pile?
I don't know that. You talk about suspensions. I'm thinking the players' union. I was thinking the other day of players' unions. They're just, no offense, Byron, but they're just as, I won't use a bad word. I was going to do it, but I won't use it. But they're just as unfair, as unreasonable. That's the word, okay? That's a polite word. They're totally unreasonable players' unions. I'm going to give you an example. One player could be given the worst cheap hit. He could be injured. He could be out the year because of the cheap hit he had. So the commissioner's then going to turn around and put a very hefty suspension on the player who committed the dirty hit. So rather than the players' union look out for the guy that was injured, they go to bat for the guy that was suspended. They do that all the time.
Are you talking basketball or you talking football?
All sports, players' unions. A pitch in baseball, he could deliberately throw at a guy's head and hurt him. And the players' union is going to back the pitcher who deliberately threw at his head. Oh, you can't suspend him for
the player union in football don't decide the penalty. Don't decide
the cheap hits in football. When someone gets suspended, they don't look out for the guy who was the victim, the player. They turn around and they put their full support behind the other guy. The player should get mad about that. I mean, the guy who's the victim, the innocent victim, he's really not getting represented. But they represent the suspended player.
Do you really expect Byron to come out and speak against
No,
him?
I don't. I'm just saying all players' unions. Byron can't comment on that.
All right. Yeah,
But
I think we got the best union in sports, NFLPA.
Byron is working. Has a good job, Jack. He's not going to say anything.
No, Byron is not going to comment. No. Byron, for the record, Byron disagrees with my criticism of the NFL players union and the others to a degree. I understand that. So Byron's not commenting on it, and I don't want him to. I'm just saying this kind of has to be a balance here, because sometimes in sports, the guy who is on the receiving end of it, he's one of their guys too, any unions.
Yeah, that's true. And you pay your union dues
in life. That's all unions. I understand. Sometimes you have to represent someone whether you want or not. Like, let's switch it to attorneys, for example. They could have the worst client available, but they have to give him a representation. I could kind of understand that.
There you go.
Okay, let's move on from that. I don't want to. Byron hasn't commented on it. Byron disagrees with me, and we're going to leave it at that.
I think you need to be a commissioner. I don't know for what sports, but you definitely need to be a commissioner, because you it sounds good though.
Yes,
and you got to think about the victim. You really do.
Yeah,
you got to think. Yeah, I understand. You got to represent the offending player too. I understand that he's part of the union. You can't abandon him completely. You just have to work along. Sometimes with the commissioner, if it's a terrible penalty. I mean, I'm going to go to baseball now. This is an NFL. Years ago, Armando Benitez, an Oriole pitcher, he deliberately drilled Tino Martinez in the back with a pitch. Everyone knew it. The dugout's empty because a player hit a home run right before that. Okay. That's why he drilled Tino Martinez in the back with a wicked fastball. And because there was a melee on the field, he got suspended for 8 games. I'm the commissioner. You deliberately hit this guy in the back. We're sitting out for 50 games. 50 games without pay. I'm sending my message to all pitchers, 50 games. Now, the players' union is then going to appeal it. Let them take me to court. Go ahead. I am going to play the tape for the jury of the pitcher deliberately hitting a bat in the back, the harm he could have done.
Yeah.
Okay? Yeah. And I'm going to let the players' union go to court, over that. And are they really going to win in front of a jury on that?
Not once you show that tape. Not once you show that tape.
Not once you show the tape. I mean, it's scary on that. I mean, but the idea he was suspended for only 8 games. Come on. You're deliberately throwing a fastball as hard as you can and hitting a guy in the back.
And that's only 2 starts, right, Jack? It's not even.
Well, he was a relief at the time, but whatever.
All right. Well, thank God the Philly sports guy is down underneath to save the show.
Oh, they had a nice draft.
Yes, they did. So Pags here from the draft yesterday, while he was all painted up and going crazy, especially with the pick Jalen Carter. But Pags, I think the more important thing you picked up yesterday was the San Diego running back Can you hear me, Pat?
Eckler.
I
Yeah,
can hear you
Eckler-
fine.
Okay, Eckler. I think Eckler was an unbelievable move the Eagles made even before they picked up Carter.
I tell you, this is the reason why it's so hard to I don't get any service whatsoever there. You're letting me know that we picked up Eckler.
Yeah.
So
Picked him up.
that's amazing. That is absolutely amazing.
And Nolan Smith at number 30.
Yeah, that was the guy. I mean, everybody thought that we were going to have to move up to get him, or that we'd have to take him at number 10. So the fact that we were able to get Carter, and I thought that was a real savvy move because I knew that the Bears kind of wanted him. So they had to trade picks to just make sure that the Bears didn't take him.
Yeah.
And then, but what did they trade for Eckler?
I don't know if I'm not sure, Pags. I'm not sure what they traded for Eckler.
Now you got me. Now you got me. I mean, I already thought we won the draft, but I tell you, it's there ain't no stopping Howie.
No.
Well,
no.
Byron feels it's going to be a close divisional race with the Giants definitely in the mix next year. He acknowledges, Byron, that the Eagles might win the division, but the Giants are going to push him to the very end. That's how Byron feels.
I had to go and explain to the Giants fans that were there. I'm like, listen, I said, I know you guys aren't used to picking this late in the draft, but this is what happens when you make the playoffs. So I had to let them know that because they're used to picking like 4th and 7th and 10th and
5 and 7 last year. 5 and 7.
Let me tell you why I want to congratulate you, Pax. You got Jalen Carter. He's going to be really good. He's going to be really good. I don't know is he going to be dominant next like he was in college, but he's definitely going to fit in with the Eagle leadership and really be a nice contributor next year. As is Nolan Smith. You got Dean from Georgia, the year before. So Georgia's in the house, over there too. But Howie Roseman makes these picks. It seems he makes them count wherever he takes them. Unlike the Giants, they don't, they're all over the place, it seems, historically. But the Eagles make their picks count.
It's so funny when you watch a fan base, like when you watch a fan base get ready to be excited for the pick that they chose. And then they have a certain person and player in mind, and all of a sudden they announce a name and they have no idea who that name is. And there's a pause on what's going on.
Is that you, Byron?
That's me and Austin Eckler.
Oh, wow. Cool.
And,
yeah.
And we were just talking last month. We was at the NFLPA. He's a great guy, young man. I just want to say this about him. You getting a complete player, and that guy is awesome. He's been one of the most productive running back in the last 4 or 5 years. In the NFL.
Is it concerning that he wanted out of San Diego or his out of LA, the Chargers, away from the Chargers? I mean, that's what makes me just a little like a touch hesitant. I know what he's done on the field.
No, I think it was something that they were negotiating behind the scene to try to lock him in this year with his contract, and I think that's where it all unfolded. And I think him and his agent decided that might be best for him to get traded out of there.
Yeah.
So he got 1 year left on his contract.
Yeah, he had 1 year left.
So I'm interested to hear what the Eagles gave up for that, because obviously they're going to have to try to re-sign him. They're able, that there is nobody better at capology than the Philadelphia Eagles. I don't know who they got in there. I mean, it's like I'd love to say it's all Howie, but they have some mathematicians in their employ that know how to play games with the cap.
Yeah. I think they'll figure it out for him, but they getting an awesome running back. I tell you that.
Well, didn't
I'm
he?
telling you, they're 2 first-round picks. Like I said, also with Nolan Smith and join Jalen Carter. Man.
The rich keep getting richer.
Yeah. It's nice draft. Anything day 2 and day 3. I mean,
Well,
assume they're
let's
not
start.
done yet.
Let's start in the very beginning of the day, where something that nobody even knew about, the Arizona Cardinals in a tampering situation wind up having to give up a 3rd-round pick, and then we swapped 6th-round picks, I think it was, or something like that. So we have another 3rd-round pick that wasn't there before.
Yeah.
So there's a lot that I think is going to still occur. Now, my expectation is that if they did give up some capital for next year, obviously with the trade up to Chicago, and they were low on picks this year. Wouldn't surprise me if he tries to get more capital. Try to get more things, more draft capital for next year or more this year. Other than that, it's now time start to get. They don't like to use rookies on their offensive line. And I kind of firmly believe that that's where they're going to start looking now. The 2nd and 3rd round, they're going to start looking at big guys on their offensive line and starting to redo that. Because
maybe a center Tippett, if he's available for Minnesota. I could see him going to the Eagles because Kelsey, maybe it's his last year.
I know what, I just watching Kelsey come out and just even enjoy being with us and being with the fans. I know he's ready to become father. I think that's absolutely in the very near future for him. But it wouldn't surprise me if the Eagles win the Super Bowl this year. I absolutely see him retiring and going out on top. If by chance they don't, he's got another year or 2 left in him.
Do you think Pags had who had the best draft yesterday? Would you think that would be Houston?
So this is the difficult thing. Again, we didn't get to see what Houston gave up to get back up when they announced their segment, and then they say, that whoever was in the number 3 spot, I think it was Arizona, trades their pick to Houston's back on the clock. And there was a big what out of the crowd. That was so, and that pick obviously is absolutely indicative of the coach. It's like, okay, here is my guy who's I'm going to coach to be the coach on the field, to be me on the field. And obviously I know what I was able to do. So I found my guy who's I'm going to be able to make as the younger version of me on this team. So yeah. I like the pick for him. I think that they really did a great job on getting the 2nd and 3rd pick. I just don't know what they gave up for that. And I feel like
that a lot. That's why when we go all crazy, oh, what a great deal for Houston, and they got a great player in Will Anderson. And you could say it was a great deal, but you never talk about what they give up, ultimately, and what they gave up. They flip-flopped. They gave up Houston their 3rd pick then for the 12th to move down to get Arizona's, 3rd round,
third pick, yeah.
They moved up to number. What am I saying? I'm sorry.
They were number 12. They moved up to 3.
They gave up the 12th overall pick to Arizona. They gave up the 33rd overall pick early in the 2nd round, a 1st-round pick in 2024, a 3rd round in 2024, and a 2023 4th rounder. They gave up a big haul for defensive player, a big haul.
Well,
Houston, they really gave up an awful lot. Now, if he turns out to be another J.J. Watt, it's worth it, okay? But if he doesn't turn out to be of the caliber of a J.J. Watt, then it's not worth it.
Well, they got what they thought is a future star. You know, the Jets gave up a boatload too for Rodgers. So I mean, that's
not as much, not nearly as much.
Well, the Rodgers gave. Hold on, they gave up a lot for Rodgers.
I think so.
Really? Hold on. They flip-flop first-round picks, and they gave up a fourth and a fifth.
That's true. We were talking about that. Rodgers is like
the Jets gave up a second-round pick today. They have 2 second-rounders. One of them is going to Green Bay, the 42nd overall pick, and the Jets go 43rd to Green Bay.
So they gave up a second-round pick and a fourth and a fifth.
And no. Let me explain. The Jets flip-flopped third to go number 15 instead of number 13. They flip-flopped that with Green Bay. But Green Bay is flip-flopping their 5th-round draft choice for the Jets' 6th round. So the Jets are moving up 37 positions there. The Jets are giving up their number 2 today. And next year, a number 1 if Rodgers plays at least 2/3 of the snaps. If he doesn't play 2/3 of the snaps, then it's a 2nd-round pick. So the Jets, basically for Rodgers, have given up a 1st and 2nd-round pick or 2 second-round draft choices. But listen, consider Aaron Rodgers, like Max said yesterday, a number 1 draft choice. So essentially, you're giving up 1 extra player, essentially.
Right.
Well, and when I think about with the whole Rodgers thing, I mean, they're going to be really interesting to watch how they have to deal with the capology next season. Where, I mean, they're going to be able to It's like that whole cap hit is going to come next season, where it's like $107 million for him next season. That's what it's going to cost for Rodgers next season. That's crazy. That's crazy.
That's too much
for the money. No. Aaron Rodgers is working along with the Jets, helping them with cap relief. And reporters, he'll defer money again next year, like delay things, bonuses. I don't know how it works. You know, for all that I follow sports, I can't figure out the cap for anything. If you talk to me about the cap, I have no idea what to say. None at all. I mean, really. But from what I understand, Aaron Rodgers is working with the team. For that.
Pags, I got what they gave him for Eckler, which isn't much. They trade the 30th pick to the Chargers for the 54th.
No,
we took the 30th pick.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You got the 30th pick from this. That's what I mean.
No, we had it.
Oh, okay.
That was our pick. That was our original pick.
All right. Well, then for the 54th and running back Eckler is what they're saying.
So we gave up our 2nd-round pick.
Right.
Okay.
That's not
bad. That's not bad.
No, not bad at all.
That's a good deal.
Yeah. I think, listen, Eckler is just another guy out of the back, can catch the ball out of the backfield, can run with the ball really well. I mean, you guys, like I said, the rich keep getting richer with you guys. You had a brief meeting with your 1st-round pick. I saw you there hugging him and stuff, and yelling. I mean, probably hard to hear anything he had to say.
That was a little bit. I mean, actually, when I actually watched the video and was able to hear it, I had to make sure he got his first Eagles chant in, so he had to lead us all in the Eagles chant, and he goes, "What?" And then I'm like, "Just you'll get it."
Right. So look like a really big guy there, Pags.
Oh my Lord! I mean, just first off, it was. I tell you, if anybody had a great draft, it was me, because here comes Jason Kelce out of nowhere, pushes everybody out of the way because the seas closed, and he pushed everybody out of the way to come give me a hug. Wow. And then like literally, it's we have Carter out there, and he comes out and talk about how excited he was. You know what I mean? He's literally, as he's coming onto the stage, he's got the tears of joy. His mom's there with him and stuff like that. It was just such an amazing time. And then to do that Eagles chant with them and stuff, and he was still overjoyed. Like he's just like, this is what I came home to. This is the family. It was an amazing time to be able to do that. And it's a shame that Nolan wasn't there too, because he would have gotten the same welcome. Like I said, when we saw that, we're like, wow, we just got the whole Georgia Bulldogs middle. That's the middle of the field is all Georgia Bulldogs now. You know, and they know how to win championships.
Well, Pat, it sounded like there was a big, big celebration of the Eagle fans. Good for all of you. You saw other fan bases there. Did you get to witness them interact, the other fan bases? For example, the Giant fan base, were they as happy as the Eagle fan base?
Unfortunately, they were not. You know, and I'd love to say that there was, you know, they got the pick and they were like, who? You know, it was like they weren't sure who it was. And then, of course, they're like, you get that hesitant pause for a second, and then you cheer because that's what you need to do. You got the camera on you. You can't be like, huh? Who did they pick? You know what I mean?
They were looking to get a wide receiver, but all the wide receivers left before they got to the Giants pick. That's what happened.
And the Giants did pick up a good quarterback, which they needed, you know, to cover some of them wide receivers in the NFC East. So it wasn't a bad pick for the Giants. I just think
No, Mac. I think Byron said it best. Had Jordan Addison just slipped one more spot and had the Giants picked them, their fans would have gone crazy. I think they got their elite wide receiver, but it didn't happen, and I think they were deflated by that point.
Yeah, Minnesota Vikings stole their thunder for sure.
I mean, Sneaky was not as super excited. You know, there was Sneaky, there was Joe, the license plate guy that was there, and watching them, because they are sitting right in front of us. They were a little hesitant, and they were nowhere near as excited. There was excitement out of Houston. Obviously, they were super excited about what's going on. And like I said, we don't get to hear. They don't say what they gave up for the picks. So we don't learn that. It's just, this pick was traded. But how about? I mean, what was it? By the 25th pick in the draft, there was only 6 teams that stayed in their position. Everybody else had moved.
Yeah.
That's a big deal there. And, you know, when you think about number one took number one, but really they didn't, you know, because they moved up to do it. You know, number 2, Houston took their number 2, but then moved up to be number 3. You know, so there wasn't many teams that stayed pat. Everybody moved.
The Giants should have moved up.
Yeah.
I agree. They should have.
They would have got their wide receiver then.
Pags,
what did you think about the Dallas pick? I mean, Dallas didn't even look happy about that pick either. I mean, it looked like the Cowboys, I think because they lost who they thought was going to come down to them too, they reached out and got I think it was a defensive end I've never heard of. But, I mean, it looks like a far reach again for Dallas.
You know what? I heard from all the Dallas people that they're going to win the Super Bowl. So,
but you know what? Seemed like to me they would have gotten Nolan Smith instead of that guy.
Yeah, I don't.
That just goes to show you Dallas have a big question mark on their heart. They really don't know.
Yes. Yeah, and that's part of. I mean, they may have had a great player that they got. I don't know. I haven't had a chance to talk to True Blue about it to find out what his thoughts were about this, and he likely probably didn't do any of his homework on this guy. He probably had no idea that this was going to be the pick. I tell you, because I even said the same thing. Washington didn't know who they chose. You know what I mean? And so it was interesting to see how everybody. The only person I knew, once we traded up with Chicago in the number 9 spot, I knew Jalen Carter was the guy. There was no doubt in my mind. I'm like, that's Carter. You know, I thought maybe with number 30, when I found out, because they were showing the war room and they showed a phone call. And I'm like, that's a trade call. You could tell by the way Howie's movements were. He's like, he was taking a trade call to see if they were going to do it. And there was 4 minutes left to go in the pick. And I turned to the guy next to me who's a Hall of Fame fan as well. And I was like, that's a trade pick. Or that's a trade call that's coming. So we didn't think we were going to get that pick. We thought that they were going to trade it away. Once we realized that they were going to take the pick, I was thinking it was going to be Joey Porter Jr.
Right.
I thought that we were going to go cornerback there. It's a surprise for them to go middle linebacker. Inside linebacker. Big surprise for them. Yeah. So, but I think that was part of the plan. Like, hey, listen, these guys those 4 guys won 1 championship together, and 2 of those guys won 2. So, I mean,
those guys can play. They can play.
The Eagles aren't done. They have a pick late in the 2nd round, 62nd overall, and then early in the 3rd round, through a trade at 66. So they could get a couple of good players. I mean, the elite players left in the draft, if you like, the Joey Porter,
he's not making it. He's not making it past
They're not going to be there at that point.
Joey Porter's not making it past that first pick.
Unless Howie
is going to go to Pittsburgh.
Number 62 and number 66, and maybe a 3rd round the next year. If they have one, I have no clue. I'm just throwing it out. Is he bold enough to actually move up very early in the 2nd round and grab one of those guys if he's really high on them?
I don't know how high he is on them. That's part of the issue here. Obviously, they are. I mean, we're set at cornerback right now for a few years. So maybe they're looking at starting to replenish the cornerback position next year, at least in the draft. So let 1 year happen. We just signed Slay again. We got Bradbury still. So I mean, I don't foresee that really being an issue. I don't see any safety. I believe if I'm Howie, and I know how I do things, that it's offensive linemen now. Now we start replenishing the offensive line. Maybe, and I knew that there was really only one good tight end in this draft. Maybe look at the tight end position. But other than that, I after that, once you start getting 4 through 7, then you look speed in the wide receivers.
Pags, let's talk a little NBA with you. We haven't talked about that with you yet. You got the 76ers going against Boston. Jack mentioned something that I didn't think of. Why the 76ers playing Boston and the Knicks are playing Miami. And
so ridiculous. It's so ridiculous. Every other sport in the world recedes, but no, we're going to have the conference championship in the 2nd round.
Right.
So that's what we're going to do. So we're going to have a lesser conference championship because the NBA is smarter than everywhere else. Get the hell out of here. This is why they need to fire this commissioner again. Like these commissioners suck in the NBA. They don't know. And that's why the inmates run the asylum. It angers me. This angers me. This should be the conference championship. And it's not.
Let me tell you something, Pax, what could conceivably happen. The Sixers could play a great series and beat the Celtics, but they are going to be so drained that I could then see them losing to the Heat of the Knicks after doing all the dirty work and knocking off the Celtics.
The Heat, yes. The Knicks, no.
Yeah, but
there's no chance they beat the Knicks. No chance the Knicks beat them. No chance. The Heat,
they would be drained if the Sixers are to beat the Celtics.
And I'm telling you, and I hear you, I understand, but I'm telling you, the Heat could beat the Sixers after beating the Celtics. The Heat could beat the Sixers.
Listen, the
Knicks can't.
The Knicks are going to beat Miami. There's no doubt.
No, they're not. No, they're not.
No doubt in my mind, Pags. There's no doubt. Their defense is better. They got a deeper bench.
I would say, I'd bet a shave of the mohawk. I'll shave a mohawk in your head. So
I'm telling you, Miami's going to lose to the Knicks. The Knicks are.
I'm
deeper.
going with you, Matt. I'm going with you.
Yeah, the Knicks are deeper. And who are you going to stop? Jimmy Butler?
That's it.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's it. So stop
Right.
Jimmy Butler.
And what, he only scored about 1,000 points in that last series.
Cleveland had, well, let him score. Who cares? Who else Miami got? And Cleveland had the same problem with Devontae Fox. They had one scorer. The Knicks let him score, and they shut down the rest of the team.
All right.
I believe that, Pags. I'm not just saying that because I'm a Knicks fan. I think the seeding is terrible. I think, as Jack said, they should reseed every series. It's ridiculous that you have to do that.
It's so unfair that the Heat and the Knicks have the easier matchup.
The fact that the Knicks have home court advantage now is so ridiculous. It's so ridiculous.
I love it, but it's crazy.
That's crazy. I got to go. I'll see you guys next time.
Byron, thanks for stopping in.
All right.
Okay, buddy. So there you go, folks. Byron Williams. Always great to have him on and to fill in key thing here. So let's keep talking about the playoffs. What are you guys feeling about the Warriors, the Lakers, Phoenix? How about the West? What are you guys looking at? Jack, what are you looking at over there?
Well, Golden State certainly turned things around, up 3-2 after being down 2-0 to Sacramento. I can't see Golden State losing the series. I mean, Sacramento's had a great year, but to win at Golden State and then win a seventh game at home, it's possible, but I think they've got a handle. I think they have a little bit the better team, Golden State, too, and the way they've come back, they've asserted themselves. And the Lakers better close it out with Memphis. If it gets to a seventh game, I would favor Memphis there. Younger, a little more of an energy level, it would seem, if it got to that point. But I'm looking at this point now for Phoenix to be the team to come out of the West. I mean, they're going to be hard to beat in a 7-game series. You've got to beat them 4 games. So, if I had to feel, between Phoenix and I know Denver, maybe their time has finally came. They've always been excellent in the regular season, and then they've been flat during the playoffs. And Golden State, you can never discount them. But somehow you think Golden State's going to hit a wall later on in the playoffs. Somehow, I get that feeling. And but the NBA's fun. Anyone just about could beat anyone, especially with the teams left.
Yeah, but wouldn't Golden State, who would they have to wind up playing? They're going to wind up playing Phoenix?
Well, with the seeding, it depends what's going on with Golden State and Sacramento yet. That's got to get settled.
Right. So, I mean, because the Lakers, I mean, this is the NBA, so the Lakers get home court advantage, don't they?
I think the Lakers, they're not reseeding. I don't.
No, the Lakers are 6 seeds, or something like that. But I mean, I think that if the Lakers and Golden State win, it's actually Golden State winds up playing Phoenix, and then who is the number 1 seed?
It should be Denver.
Denver. So Denver would wind up playing the Lakers. I think that the Lakers win that series. I think that you're again the Phoenix Golden State matchup is the Western Conference Championship. You know what I mean? I feel like this is so ridiculous on how the NBA is doing things. And they are killing themselves. They are killing themselves. I would not be surprised to see next season that they make that change.
I think the NBA wants a marketable series. It's a marketable finals, marketable matchups. I mean, some matchups.
So they're losing it, though. They are losing it, though. They're losing those things when they do things the way they are.
I mean, but some matchups aren't marketable. Like, let's say you had the Denver Nuggets play the Sixers even. Is that a nationwide? Is that really that much of a marketable matchup? Maybe there's Jokic and Embiid. You draw that comparison. Or the Celtics and something about Denver. They're not marketable. Phoenix will be marketable with Kevin Durant. Golden State is marketable. The Lakers, obviously, with LeBron. Memphis might not be that marketable nationwide. You kind of wonder, maybe kind of hit and miss. And Miami, even with Jimmy Butler, they're not really that marketable. The Knicks might be only because of the name, the brand, not the players. You know, you hear the Knicks
are making it to the finals.
There's
no chance the Knicks are making it to the finals. They're lucky they got past Cleveland.
Very, very good chance. I say the Knicks in 6. That's what I say.
I mean, the players have a lot on the line. Hypothetically, if the Sixers win the NBA championship, it would be because of Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid would all of a sudden take Giannis's place and the others, and we'd look who's the best player in basketball. The focus would be on Joel Embiid as the best player in the game all of a sudden. But he needs the NBA championship for people to consider him the best.
Bags, you know what this playoff system has done for the Knicks? It gives them an actual chance to go to the championship. It gives them a chance to go to the NBA championship.
You know what it's done for the Knicks? It's given people like you hope that this team is better than it is. That's all they've done.
Yeah. Once again, Pags, you're not looking ahead. The Sixers, if they do beat the Celtics, and realistically they can. I'm not discounting the Sixers' chances. It's a winnable series for the Sixers. It would be an emotional 7-game series. I think at least 6. They'd spill their guts on the court. They will be an exhausted team at the end. And I'm talking about mentally.
Yes.
Mentally. It's going to be so hard for the Sixers to regroup because that's the top team they're considered in the East. And now they're playing this Knicks team that has all this enthusiasm. They're fresh. They're back. You know, the Knicks.
Because they're not going to have a tough series against the Heat. They're not going to play it all out in the game. Come on, what are we talking about? What are we talking about? There is no chance. I don't think the Knicks can pass the Heat, but there is absolutely no chance, and it don't matter whether it's Boston or the Sixers, that the Knicks would beat either one of those teams.
They did
either one of those teams. Not happening. You guys, hopes and dreams. Hopes and dreams is a beautiful thing for you guys.
Pags, they did it in the regular season. I think they beat both the 76ers and the Celtics at least twice. They did it in the regular season. So I mean, listen, I'm happy the way the seating is. I know it's unfair, and you know I feel bad for the Sixers and the Celtics right now. I really do, honestly. So
I mean, I don't get with the seeding. It just doesn't. It all doesn't make sense.
It's the NBA, so like I said, they're ridiculous.
So unimportant. Just make the playoffs, and if you're that good a team, I'm gonna be honest about it. If you're that good a team, 10 teams get in the postseason tournament. The first 6 are playoffs, but playing is 7 to 10. But even the play-in tournament, as long as you're 7th or 8th, you got to win just 1 out of 2 games to advance, and then you're not at any disadvantage because they don't reseed.
Yes.
So what's the big deal? You could coast during the season, finish 7th or 8th, and then win 1 of the 2 games in the play-in tournament, and you advance. And that's what's happened.
Pags, I know you haven't been following the NHL. You've been the draft and everything, but giving you a little insight in some of these games, the Devils actually have a chance of beating the Rangers. They won 4-0 last night.
3-2.
And that's right, 3-2. Do the Devils do it? Did they knock out the Rangers?
I mean, again, it's going to matter on the goalie. And if the goalie is hot like that, I mean, they won 4-0. Let's see what else they did. How have they been playing? 3-1. So, I mean, obviously he's let up 1 goal in the last 2 games against them. 3 goals in the last 3 games. So that means it's a hot goalie, and a hot goalie can change everything. So I think that's a really big deal. How about Toronto?
I was just going to say
How about Toronto? I mean, obviously they were up 3-1. I saw somebody with a Toronto hat on, and I'm like, wow, I said, have they been kicked out of the playoffs yet? And she's like, don't make me cry here, because obviously she knows what they're willing to do. I don't count the Lightning out of this series yet, obviously being 3-2, but it definitely puts them in a little bit of a,
Well, the Lightning won at Toronto. I mean, Toronto is ready to celebrate finally getting out of the first round, and the Lightning beats them, and they've got to be a little nervous. You know, they didn't quite close the deal. If they don't close it at Tampa in the next game, and it's a 7th game, that's going to be.
I think, and I'd be willing to bet that goes to overtime in Game 7.
Yeah,
that is some of the beauty of playoff hockey. That to watch those two teams go at it in overtime for Game 7, for Toronto not to move on, because I think Toronto still doesn't move on. The Islanders holding up a little bit of.
that's what I was just going to say.
The Hurricanes. I mean, their top scorer is out, so obviously he's not going to be able to come back. He was out for the rest of the season, and I guess it's really starting to hurt them. And the Islanders also have a really good goaltender, and they could go as far as that will take them. I thought the Bruins would be done with the Panthers by now, but I think that series ends today. I think that series is done. The Minnesota Wild and the North Stars, or the Dallas Stars, I don't think anybody even cares about that. Dallas, I think, wins that series. How about Seattle? Seattle in their second season, taking a 3-2 lead against the Avalanche. I don't think the Avalanche is out of this yet. I think that with their backs up against the wall, they push a Game 7. But Game 7 in hockey, anything can happen.
Yes. So Pax, you're going to be going to the draft again today, if I'm correct, right? You're going to hang out with and what do you expect to see over there today? I mean, you have the Eagles in the second round doing their thing, Washington, Dallas, and the Giants. What do you expect from all the NFC East teams over there today?
That the Eagles get better, and the other three just wish they were the Eagles.
Okay.
Well, the Eagles still can get a couple of players that are really going to help this year in the draft. I mean, from 62 and 66. I mean, there'll be some guys. There'll be guys there. I mean, it's you never know what move. I wonder whether they're going to trade those picks, perhaps, and maybe think a little about next year. I mean, maybe they feel they basically set this year. And Howie Roseman likes to think a year so ahead sometimes, and make deals. And before you know, he packages those deals. I mean, if he
would not surprise me. I feel like that, especially with two picks so close to each other. I mean, there's nobody that deals more than Howie does. That's one of his staples. So my expectation is that they pick with one of them, they trade the other one, and I think that it's that they start to get more capital, moving forward. Obviously, I think that it's I wouldn't be surprised to see them trade down and then trade down and then trade down. Like, hey, we're going to move back from the 66th pick to the 74th pick, and then go from the 74th pick to the 82nd pick, and then the 82nd pick to the 92nd pick, and just start picking up a couple of picks here and there. You know what I mean?
You get fourth rounders, to just move down.
Well, but also being able to get like the 62nd pick and the 66th pick, you could move back a good amount and grab a second rounder for next year.
They can make, or if there's one player that they like a lot right now, that all of a sudden slips to about 40th, for example, the low 40s, who they really like a lot, they might be able to work a deal if they give those two picks, 62nd and 66th, to get, to move up. A team might be willing to do that.
Maybe. I guess it depends on who that team is.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't know that there's any glaring need other than safety.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing that I think about. Like, are they about to make a trade for the safety from Arizona?
Before we get out of here, Pags, what's your opinion on Levis? Jack thinks that maybe he goes to the Rams right away because of Stafford is hurt and this may be maybe his last year with the Rams. Can you see him dropping to the Rams or the Rams picking him up?
Thus, Keith Engel really pointed that out yesterday. Give Keith
that
credit.
he was the one quarterback that didn't get chosen.
Yeah.
I think he probably drops even further. He doesn't go in the second round. I think he goes further. Yeah, I think that everybody right now. So you had that run on the quarterbacks, and then you didn't see another quarterback.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. It was like and which is common. I think I would not be surprised that he falls to the third round, maybe even
like
Saturday.
Malik Willis the last year.
Yeah.
People had him going high in the beginning, and then he fell to the third round. You never know.
I know a lot of people are comparing him to Carson Wentz, that he's going to get hurt a lot because he can't, move even as good as Carson Wentz.
Wait. Does Carson Wentz have a team now?
No.
There hasn't been even any talk about picking him up anyone. Is he going to be?
Yeah, the last I heard was St. Louis Battlehawks. No, I'm kidding. I have
no. Listen, he might have to go to the XFL or USFL to reestablish himself. Don't you could joke about it, but that might be reality. Is a team going to pick him up? Is he going to be in the NFL next year?
I don't think so.
That's somebody he's going to have to. It wouldn't surprise as I think about this, being the backup to Baker. Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay. As I think about it, Tampa Bay could be the team that picks up Levens.
Well, I would that too. I heard that too. Either Rams or Tampa Bay, one or the other is.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me to see them do it. Also wouldn't surprise me to see Miami do it.
Well, Levitt is
Mike White, the Jet backup. Yeah, backup.
Who cares about Mike White? Who cares about him?
I know,
you got Tua, then you got Drek. So let's be for real.
If Carson Wentz, I agree with you. If he's willing to be the third string.
Well, not Carson Wentz. I'm not talking about Carson Wentz. I'm talking about Levis.
Oh, Levis.
I'm talking about the Drek. Yeah, Levis. Not Carson Wentz. That could be a spot for Miami taking him. Again, I don't think that. No, my expectation is that you could see Carson Wentz go to Tampa. You might even see him go to LA with the Rams.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, last night Keith kept saying, "Well, he's going to go here," and he didn't go there. And Jack picked it up afterwards, and he was carrying the torch, but he just kept falling. So, folks, we're out of here. Thanks for joining us today. Thanks for the views and the comments, and we'll see you tomorrow on the Mac and Jack Debate Show. Where me, Pat, you going to be in tomorrow?
I'll try my best.
All right.
I expect tonight to be a very late night. We have a party where there's going to be a lot of things going on, and we're open till 3:00 in the morning. So I'll try, but
all right,
I may be bleary-eyed.
I don't think Doc will be there, so at least be me and Jack there. So we'll see you tomorrow on the Mac and Jack Debate Show. Don't forget Sunday, This Week in Sports, where we'll be going over the biggest news in sports, the hottest news stories. Of course, we'll be talking about the draft till we're blue in the face, Jack. So be ready for that. Have a great Friday, folks. If you're going out tonight, be careful, and we'll see you tomorrow on the Mac and Jack